One of the things that come up pretty frequently in a network marketing business when somebody's brand new is that you have your goal and the company has their goal and it's not the same, right? It's a bit out of alignment, and it has to do with planning. And this is where corporate and reps get out of alignment, and this is where teams branch off and, quote, do their own thing, all right? So I want to walk you through how to plan. And it's a very, very, very important piece because you're basically choosing your route to get to your vision. And all of this kind of needs to come together. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. All right, so I've been on this journey walking through how to go from vision to writing your one goal plus your non-negotiables, write your why and why you want this goal and not other goals, and then writing your guiding principles. And those help you with creating a memory for your goal, if you will, of all good lessons learned, good and bad. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about how to now take this whole thing down, this whole thing that's been dreamed up in your head, and we're going to now break it down into a plan on how to get it done, all right? So lots of fun here. So planning to achieve the goal. Your plan starts from a wide scope view. You know this because you set the vision, right? And so you now know why you want that vision, and you know you're going to document your guiding principles along the way. And now here we are to let's break this thing down. Break what down? Right? That's what normally happens. So you start with a wide scope and you'll get smaller in it. And this is the route that I take. I'm going to give you some examples. Okay, so this is a route. All right, you may have many routes, but right now it's a route or routes to attain your goal. It's how to accomplish all or part of your goal, and or all of your whys or part of your whys. In other words, sometimes you can have a wide scope vision, and what this is going to be is a part of that vision. So if mine was, I want to have a farm on the river near a lot of parkland. Okay. I want horses, I want cows, I want all kinds of stuff. And I need to make the money for this. Okay, so I'm going to carve off one piece. All right, I need to make the money to buy the farm. So it may accomplish the whole thing for me because now I have the money to buy the horses and stables and blah, 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 right? Maybe not. And so that's the reason that I had to weave all the way through there, because I suppose that you would probably, screenshot this or something like that. And as you're going through, just know that it can be all of it, all of the goal, or some of the whys, or all of the whys. That was your purpose for doing this goal. All right. And it has a lot to do with whether or not you decided the one thing and you trimmed everything else off except your non-negotiables. Because if you've got multiple goals that are sitting inside of this goal, then you're going to have a hard time. It's going to be harder. That's the reason one of my videos had to do with do everything you can to just get it down to one thing that's going to create the most change in your life. Because mine, it would create the most change in my life, and it would get done all of my things. All right. Planning causes you to look at available resources. It's one of the key things that we're going to do here. Planning causes you to look at factors involved. In other words, all right, so what are resources? Well, resources would be, I'm sitting here right in front of you right now. I'm a resource to you. So my knowledge helps you in building your business. Your sponsor helps you. You have uplines, plural, uplines. My upline quit. Well, keep going. Go up, right? You have customer service. You have perhaps generic training, let's say on lead generation. You have all kinds of different resources. That's what I'm talking about, resources. Planning causes you to look at factors. Well, what are all of the factors? Well, I've shown you the pipeline. There's a lot of factors there, right? There's events. There's all kinds of things that become factors. How you dress, how you talk, how you communicate, where you're getting your leads from. All kinds of things become factors. And in the beginning, you don't know the factors. Okay, so when you start to go planning, you're kind of like planning for what, right? So it's my kids, when I try to tell them to plan for a jiu-jitsu tournament, and they're like, plan? I go, yeah. Plan to win, plan to lose, plan to sit there half of a whole, no, probably 3/4 of a day and not eat. Like experience will do this stuff to you. All right. So that's factors. Planning causes you to align similar items. So as you begin to get into factors and get into resources, you start to be able to find pieces that you can line up. I'm going to give you an example in a second. Often planning causes you to look at new subjects to learn, aka thinking outside the box, right? So it's one of the big pieces where you go, I don't know. Good. There you go. Write it down. I don't know. Blank. I'm going to know blank. Okay. So that's what those are. These ideas and decisions are organized into projects to do and complete. So there is kind of your sheet that when you go to create a plan, I wanted to create that for you. And this right here is how you get your team in agreement. And is that when you all come together, there's going to be a team and then there's going to be leaders that join. You guys are going to all come together and you're going to do this exercise to come out with it. Okay. So how I plan an agenda, but that's not really my topic. My topic is I love mind mapping. It's my favorite tool when I go from vision and why and guiding principles into how to plan my goal. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through, and let's just say that this thing that you're looking at here looks kind of confusing, but I assure you, I wrote this and I was so embarrassed about my sloppy handwriting that I decided to write it up. But the way that this works for me is that, okay, let me give you the guidelines in this. Number one is never invalidate. All things are fine to throw up on the board. Nobody, not yourself even, is allowed to say that won't work. No, all ideas on the board. Okay? Because one idea begets another idea that gets another idea. Okay? That's the whole concept and why it works. You put one person in the room who wants to say, no, and you're going to kill the whole thing. So you can't do that to yourself and don't let others. All right. So the whole concept is that, all right, so we're going to do an event to launch a product, right? That's the idea. All right, well, let's run this thing down. Let's see if we can do this, get this thing done. And so then you're just going to run that idea. And so for my camera guy, I did this. That's what you just saw. And then I just went back and just wrote it more neat so that you could see it. All right. So I wrote the word event in the center. And then I wrote, what's my purpose of the event? Do you see how you use what is in everything that I've taught you so far? You're going to use that stuff. So what's my purpose in launching this event? Well, I want to launch a product. Oh, okay. All right. And then immediately I get this concept and the idea. I'm going to sell it in the back of the room. And then I'm sitting here staring at it, and then I was like, okay, so how much product do I need to have on inventory if I'm going to sell it in the back of the room? Well, wow, that's got a whole lot to do with how many people are there at the event. And so, how many people? Okay, so this is where this crisscrossed. I would end up going backwards that way in just a minute. Well, how many people? Well, that's going to depend on the size of the venue. In other words, the hotel or the luncheon or whatever a kind of event we're going to do. All right, so 500, just throw out a number. And then I popped right over to who will promote. Well, maybe the company will promote. Well, maybe leaders will promote. I can promote it across email and social media, and the rest of the team members can do it. All right, I kind of fizzled out. I went back over here, and then I started again. And I said, okay, so at the venue, then I'm going to have to, decide how the seats are going to be, whether there's a thing in the center, or it's an oval shape, in other words, it's the crowd or the seat map and how it's organized, so that I had a product table at the back of the room. Okay, and so then, I don't know, for some reason, stage height came up, and so I wrote it. And then it leads over to which venue? And then it popped up and said, what's the cost? If it's too high, another idea popped out. What if I did a Zoom in addition, right? And then that ended up jumping me over to, what if I did a Zoom, then I could record it. And even if I did a live event, I could record it and it would be a higher quality. And then I could have that video. Well, wait a minute now. I got lights and mics and editing, but wait a minute, I could repurpose that. And so I might be able to sell more products because of the repurposing than the event, but the event is going to have something else. Wait a minute. If I'm going to do this to launch this, then I have to add value to the audience. Well, what speakers could I get to get value? And what are they going to cost me? And what topics? And then a VIP dinner, because then I was like, wait a minute, and I popped down here and I went in a different direction. So which venue? Well, we're going to have a registration table. And then if we have a registration table, then that is to make sure that they paid. And then we're going to need to have a door guard in order to look at a name badge. So name badge came up. And then, well, what's the entry price? Well, I really can't know that until I figure out what that is and what that cost is. So the venue cost and this cost. Maybe I can give an early bird special. Maybe I can do VIP seats for the VIP dinner. Pictures. Okay, so now you just followed me on the wildest, bunny hop map in the world. But I'm telling you right now, this is how I always do my planning, because I get on, and I promise you, you're doing it anyway. You're doing it in the car when you're driving by yourself. You're driving down the road and an idea will pop up. You're in the middle of working out, an idea will pop up, and you just don't have it on the board to be able to come back and go, wait a minute, now how can I tap that into this? And how can I map this into here? You see? That's what you want to capture, is the mind map. And I really suggest that you just lock yourself in your office for, say, 50 minutes or something, 50, and just run out every direction you possibly can, and run till every single, when I get down at the end of something, I'm like, topics, I don't know. Anyway. And then I'll go ahead in another direction because I'm not thinking with it. So I want to hop off in another direction and get as much on the mind map. This isn't the end. This is the beginning. All this stuff just gets put down as potentials. And then the next time you do an event, you can pull this map back up. And it becomes one of your, because you'll do an after action, no, it's not really called an after action drill here, but in the military, we would have an after action. So after a mission, we would come back and we would say, what did we do good? What do we do bad? What do we need to change? Right? How can we change it? And so that's the whole purpose of this piece, is to stimulate all of, and I'm going to go back to that thing that I showed you. Do you now see factors, resources? Did you see me name company, other reps as promotions? And I'm going to give a to-do list in just a second with it, but you saw resources, you saw factors involved in doing an event. And I guarantee you, the first time you call the venue and ask them the price for the venue, and they ask you how many people, and you're like, 500-ish, and they say that'll be $5,000, you go, let's move this over to here. Like you're going to change that. And then you're also going to learn lessons eventually that those are just sticker prices. They're negotiable. And you may not know that the first 10 times or 50 times that you do it. So this is what I'm talking about, factors involved. And then prioritizing importance. That's what I'm going to show you next. Okay. So after you got this pretty good, the next thing is you're going to prioritize them. Well, what comes first? And you say, well, who promotes it, launched the product? Basically, I prioritized importance by putting the circles around them. Those are the most important in the beginning. And then organize them as a project. But wait a minute. Okay, so I needed to prioritize them and say that I need to find out what the venue is, and then I need to find out what the speaker is. So if I say the venue and there's 500 people, then I'm going to be asking the speaker, I'm trying to get 500 people in the room. All right. And so then number 3 is now I need to see whether or not I can get a video to happen there. And then to launch the product, how much inventory, and then who will promote it. Okay. So that's just kind of the beginning stage, right? So that's what I'm going to go with. And then I'm going to organize as projects. I'm going to put all this stuff together, create a to-do list out of all of the stuff having to do with the venue. And then the next thing, everything having to do with the speaker. And I may have to find more resources. Hey, how do you get this person to speak? How do you get this person to speak? Who would be a local person that I could get? Like this kind of thing. You can get the weatherman. Maybe somebody better. Like you're going to run through. And this is what I mean by factors involved. But I'm telling you, like that people, a lot of times they get so stuck in how to break apart their vision, how to break apart their why, and move it into an action step. And that's the reason that I'm doing this here. So each one of these would then go through, you'd break these things down into projects. You would organize them in logic, like when's first and what's second and so things like that. Don't get too tore up about it. Like, it's not the end of the world if you make a mistake. Unfortunately, that's what's taught in school. And I really dislike it. Probably why I didn't like school, but like failing is just absolutely a part of every process I know. And you saw in the beginning of video that I did that had to do with the whole bomb squad unit. We'd blow ourselves up just to learn lessons. Okay, so that's failing is failing. It's all right. It's good. Sometimes you die, sometimes you don't. This, you're not going to die. Probably not. All right. So after you organize the projects and then arrange them into some type of logic, and arrangement and organizing is just, it's as simple as putting knives with knives, putting forks with forks, putting spoons with spoons, put the big spoon in another drawer, like for the crock pot or whatever, So it's just the glasses up here, the cups here, and the plates here. It's just a simple of like items you're just putting together. It's all that it is. If it has to do with the registration table, put it all together. All right. And so then you're going to assign responsibility, and sometimes it's only you. But if you got a team, you're going to assign responsibility and then put everything on a calendar. All right. So that's how these work. And the other thing is these are the resources, factors, align similar items, prioritize importances and subjects to learn. And so sometimes, especially in this area, speaking, the venue, the video crew, all that stuff, there's subjects to learn in order to even find the resources for them, right? And so, but this stuff is just such a part of project management. It's such a part of taking your goal, your vision, and breaking it up. It's such a part of helping your whole team to figure out how to get creative. I've heard things people say, oh, that was clever. Oh, that was cool. Wow, how'd you come up with that idea? All of those things, I used to sit and hyperventilate because I couldn't come up with a good idea, right? And it wasn't until I learned how to do this, you don't most of the time come up with bright ideas in a vacuum. Like it's the book writer who gets writer's block. And when I started Network Marketing Power, I remember sitting there going, what do I talk about? And I did a big old mind map. And then I had to look at the resources. And the resources are, decades of me working with prospects and having people being antagonistic towards what I was talking about. And when I was hear that antagonism coming at me, I was like, okay, so they have obviously a different experience than me. Okay. People are allowed to have different experiences. And so I would end up navigating, and I would finally figure out that those that would never listen, it was because they already made a decision and they didn't want to change their mind. Even if I was righter, more correct, with what they were saying, they didn't care, right? They had shut down and couldn't hear it anymore. And so that's the reason I started all of Network Marketing Power, was because of that history of knowing that they will not listen to you because they already know what network marketing is. It's a scam, it's a cult, it's all these things. It doesn't matter how much you show them evidence that it's not. And so I started with what prevents somebody from looking at network marketing, right? That all came from a mind map, because I wrote everything up, and just, I had whiteboards back then. And so I had whiteboards in multiple places, and I had them all full, and I would have to take a picture of them and put them on my computer, and then I would fill out another area in a category. So now you get the idea. And I had until probably, I just looked at my camera guy, because it was just a few months ago that I cleaned that whiteboard where I had done the organize, and I wrote it all up into a plan with all the projects, everything, and I wrote it on one of the whiteboards, and that thing stayed up there for a year and a half, right? Almost 2 years. And so it was a long-term plan, right? And so I just kept it there. I know I could have taken a picture of it, but I ended up getting a Jamboard and putting it on the other side of the room. So that's the reason that it's, I was able to leave it up there and still plan different projects. All right. So how to plan for goals other than network marketing. I want to help you in every way that I possibly can, because you saw it in my purposes is to make people's lives better, right? And I want you to learn how to do this in some areas, some other areas, because I'm going to end up showing you all of my stuff, all of my plans, all of my projects, all of that kind of stuff. And it's going to be kind of done for you, but I want to show you other stuff. So this right here, I've already showed this in another video. So 1 year body goal, this is just a mocked up goal kind of a thing. Strong, high energy, high immunity, high endurance, high agility, increase overall strength by 200 pounds this year, increase endurance to 90 minutes. All right, so then I did my why, my guiding principles, and then I have the plan over here, and I broke it down into these 4 projects. Okay, that was in another video. And now, if you can just walk through and say, all right, so reverse engineer this right here to figure out what my plan was. What did my plan look like? Okay, well, there was a thing I want over here. And so I didn't really have a whole lot of guiding principles. And so I started studying. So there was a whole lot I didn't know about weight loss. I knew a lot about exercise, but I didn't know a lot about weight loss. And so I came out with this idea, and then 2 to 3 meals, green vegetables, lower the carbs, no refined sugar, supplements, sleep target. That ended up not working. And I ended up not saying that diets don't work, because the word diet just means what you eat. And so it's obvious that it had something to do with food, because, you pull somebody out of a camp, a prisoner of war camp, they're not fat. Okay, so it's obvious that you'd have to eat something in order to gain weight. And so I just kind of had that logic idea. And then I would say, well, is the whole thing about a furnace? Is it, whatever you eat, it's going to just convert itself into a calorie? Well, man, that was illogical to me. And so I began to break stuff up and challenge my own theories. And I ended up coming up with 7 different things there were 7 factors in weight loss. And that's really what it ended up becoming. So it's not just these 4, right? So that's when I wrote the other video that I did. I said, these might change if they lack results. So always keep in mind, when you create your plan, it's a route. It's not the route yet. You're going to have to challenge it. You're going to have to beat your records. I assure you that pipeline was not so perfect. And it was all kind of random stuff on there. And then other teammates would throw stuff on there. And we'd run with that for a while. And then I'd yank that stuff off. And, so anyway, it's a route. Because this can completely change, but this won't change. Because this is what you want. And there is absolutely no excuse big enough ever to quit. If you want something, do it. Period. Right? So I see people give up pretty easy, and it bums me out. Because there's just no such thing as failing at something. How to plan for goals, network marketing, and then, like I said, my proven plans, I'll give you in other areas. All right. So another planning strategy is your experience as a customer. So I love when people ask the question and they say, how do I generate leads? Or how do I choose what presentation? Or how do I whatever? Okay, so start with what you last bought. And then what happened just before you bought it? Well, I was checking out. All right, well, what happened just before then? Well, I was teeter-tottering. I was looking at reviews. I was looking at these different things, and I finally just made my decision because of a review that I saw. Okay, what happened just before then? Well, I looked at it, pictures of it. And what happened just before then? Well, I searched for it. Okay. See, your experience is going to be so incredible to your contribution and how you're going to create all of this stuff, right? And so, and I do this so much when I go to start a marketing campaign. I always look at this. I look at reviews for similar products, and I see what they don't like about them. I see how, the better selling ones, how they work, how the sales copy was written, and so forth. Okay, so you as an experienced customer, all right? So I experience things in a lot of different ways, and so it might be mail, that I get mail, and I will look at it and say, well, all right, so how did they get my address? What list did they buy in order to get my address? How do they know my age? Right? So all of those things I ask, and so how in the world could I ever ask a question like, how do I generate leads? I've been a customer my whole life. All I have to do is look around and say, well, I have been a customer. I have been a customer of others. How did they get me? If you just ask that simple question, you can never say or ask, how do you get leads? Okay? All right. And then also just start logging it. All right. So in your principles, start logging every time you go buy something. Log it. Log what you do. Log what you think, because you can reverse it. What popped up that you clicked on, it was a pop-up of some kind, right? So you're scrolling through Facebook or you're doing something, and you see something, you stop, and then you go and you buy it. Okay? Duplicate the process. Okay? That's your experience. You get a magazine, and you see an advertisement in the magazine, pull that piece of paper out. Put it in a paper folder, right? Because that thing grabbed you. Why did it grab you? Maybe it'll grab somebody else. Okay? So I do that quite a bit. All right, so on business goals, this you already know. I trimmed it down just a little bit. But so 1 year goal, learn the business, build the business. The plan is generate leads, contact the lead, set appointment, see a presentation, follow up, follow through, serve the customer, train the rep. And what does that look like? Well, you're going to sign them up, connect to a company, right? So you're already in, and that's where I started. So you'd be generating leads and all this stuff, right? But when you got a new rep, okay, so before you start here, you're going to have to do some other steps. You're going to have to sign them up. You're going to connect to the company, their phone, their web address, their back office, log in. How do they get that login? How do they set their password? All these kind of orientation points. I remember when I was in the military and I showed up, and it was one night, and the very next morning they handed this thing called a routing form. They handed a routing form with a sea bag. And they say, follow that line. And there was a line, and there were footprints turned this way. So there was a line, and you walk and you get on the footprint and you stand there, and then you told somebody across that counter what your head size was. That was for a hat. And then what your shirt size was, and that was for 3 shirts. And they dressed you. They didn't dress me, but they put all that stuff in a sea bag, and they go, next counter. And then you walk down the next counter. So it was a routing form and one of them was a haircut, it was one of those, just take a little bit off the sides, and wow, thanks. And you're out that door, and then you got your boots, and it was, what size? And I say, 11 and a half. And they're like, 12s. I'm like, ugh. And so, you got any extra socks? No. No, there's nothing all the way down the line. So same kind of a thing that I want you to just think of, that every person needs to go through orientation. They need to find out where I am in relation to the business. Okay, so this is just, at some point I'll go into more detail about this stuff, but I just wanted to just let you know that stuff has to happen. So, like customer service, when do I ask questions about products? Who do I ask questions about products? When do I call customer service? When do I call my upline? When do I call my upline's upline? When do I all of that stuff. Do I have the right to talk to the owner of the company? Do I have the right, all of these things, this is orientation for people, okay? And so you want to find out uplines. You want to find out weekly and monthly calls and Zooms, etc. And so then you want that rep to know the industry, company, product, and the pipeline. Okay, so now you can kind of get an idea that there is absolutely no doubt that this works 100% of the time. Not 100% of the time. In the long run, it always works, okay? So I've proven this one through a lot of millionaires that have been on my teams, and so and myself. So that's a plan, and these might never change for Tim, but how I do them constantly change, because how you generate leads, everything has a time period, an exhaustion period. And you just have to do that. Presentations, you have to change. Brilliant Compensation was really, really good, right? And the film crew that recorded it it was the editing software no longer existed. And so I couldn't get the raw data from it. So had to change, different presentations now. All right. So, was this valuable for you? If so, please smash that like button. Let me know that, and share it with anybody who needs to understand this process. And I think everybody does. And then also, please comment. And how do you plan? I want to learn from everybody. Okay. So please, and then also, don't forget the Network Marketing Power channel on Telegram. Make sure you check that out, because I comment on videos, maybe like the first week or so. But over time, after all the videos that I have, it's hard to go back to all those different videos and stay updated. But the Telegram channel, it's got a longer life, and so when you ask a question, then I get notified. So, and also people comment, people are adding great value in there. And so it's a really cool community. So thanks so much, and I appreciate you liking, sharing, and subscribing if you haven't already, and making comments. Thanks.